The darkness of the night slowly faded over Egypt as Joseph's brothers prepared for their journey back to Canaan. Their hearts were relieved. After all, they had been welcomed with honor, received food for their families, and were sent away in peace. They thought they had finally escaped the shadows of their past. But what they didn't know was that Joseph, the man who had remained unknown to them for so long, had prepared one final test, a test that would reveal the true depth of their hearts. In his wisdom, Joseph gave a command to his steward.
Fill the men's sacks with as much grain as they can carry and put their money back in their sacks. But in the sack of the youngest, in Benjamin's sack, place my silver cup.
As the first light of morning touched the land, the brothers set out on their journey. Their thoughts were fixed on their father, unaware that danger was following close behind. Suddenly, from the distance, a voice called out. Joseph's men had caught up with them.
Why have you repaid good with evil? The steward shouted. Why have you stolen my master's cup? Do you not know that he can discover all things?
The brothers looked at each other in shock. Stolen? What nonsense! With troubled hearts, they replied,
Master, we would never do such a thing. We proved our honesty by returning the money we found in our sacks. Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? Search us. If the cup is found with any one of us, let him die, and the rest of us will be your slaves.
The steward did not answer right away, but calmly said,
The one with whom the cup is found will be my master's slave. The rest of you may go free.
One by one, they opened their sacks, starting with the oldest and working down to the youngest. Their hearts pounded faster and faster. But then, suddenly, the silver cup gleamed from inside Benjamin's sack. Silence. A cold reality stole their breath away. With cries of anguish, they tore their clothes, a sign of deep sorrow and despair. They could not believe what their eyes were seeing. There was no other choice. They had to return to Joseph's house. When they arrived before him, they had no strength left. They fell to the ground. Joseph looked at them and spoke with the voice of justice.
What have you done? Do you not know that a man like me can see all things?
Judah, unable to bear the weight of the moment, stepped forward. His eyes were heavy with grief, his heart burning with guilt and fear.
What can we say, my lord? He whispered. How can we justify ourselves? God has uncovered our guilt. We are all your slaves, both we and the one in whose sack the cup was found.
But Joseph, with the cold logic of justice, replied,
No, only the one who was found with the cup will be my servant. The rest of you, go back in peace to your father.
Now Judah knew that he had to act. He could not allow their father, Jacob, to suffer another loss. So, with desperation and love in his heart, he stepped closer to Joseph and spoke words that would touch even the hardest heart.
My lord, please let your servant speak. I swear, if Benjamin does not return with us, our father will die of sorrow. He already lost one son, and his hair has turned gray from grief. This young man is all he has left. My lord, I gave my father my word that I would bring him back safely. So please, let me stay as a slave in his place. I beg you, let Benjamin return home.
At that moment, Joseph felt the weight of his own decision. He looked at the men before him and saw that they were no longer the same brothers who had once betrayed him. They were no longer selfish or hardened. These were men who had learned the meaning of love, men who were willing to sacrifice everything for their family. But the time had not yet come for the truth to be revealed. Joseph remained silent, though a decision was forming in his heart, one that would change all of their lives forever. Joseph reveals himself, tears of forgiveness and hope. The tension in the room was unbearable. Judah had just finished pleading, tears in his eyes, offering his own life in place of the brother who could not be left behind as a slave. His words had shaken everyone present, but most of all, Joseph himself. He could hold it in no longer. All the years of sorrow, loneliness, and longing for his family had now reached a breaking point. Suddenly, with a trembling voice, he shouted,
Leave me alone with these men.
The servants immediately left the room. Only the brothers remained, confused and afraid, unaware of what was about to happen. And then, something unimaginable took place. Joseph began to weep loudly. This was no quiet sorrow. It was a cry so deep and full of emotion that the entire household heard it, even reaching Pharaoh's palace. At last, when he managed to compose himself slightly, he looked at his brothers and spoke words that shook the very foundation of their world.
I am Joseph.
He paused, then continued with a trembling voice.
Is my father still alive?
A heavy silence fell. Their faces turned pale, their eyes widened in shock, their jaws locked in disbelief. This couldn't be real. The man standing before them, dressed in the finest Egyptian robes, the one they had bowed before, the ruler of all Egypt, was Joseph? They took a step back, but Joseph called them closer.
Come near to me. I am Joseph, your brother, the one you sold into slavery.
The weight of their past sins crushed them. Shame and guilt bore down on their shoulders. But before they could utter a single word, Joseph shocked them again.
Do not be afraid. Do not grieve. Do not be angry with yourselves for selling me. It was God who sent me ahead of you to save lives. This was his plan, not yours. He made me ruler over all Egypt so that I could provide for you during this famine.
The burden of guilt, which had weighed so heavily on them, began to lift. This was not a man seeking revenge. This was a man filled with love, forgiveness, and the mercy of God. Then, with tenderness in his voice, he continued,
Go quickly to my father. Tell him that his son Joseph is alive. Tell him that God has made me lord over all Egypt. Let him waste no time. He must come here. He will live in the best land, and I will take care of him, of you, and of all your children. There are still 5 years of famine left, but I will not let you suffer.
The brothers were speechless. In the blink of an eye, their world had changed. Joseph stepped forward and looked at his youngest brother, Benjamin, his eyes filling with tears once more. He embraced him tightly, and Benjamin wept on his shoulder. Then, one by one, he embraced all his brothers, holding no grudge against them. Finally, the silence melted, and they began to talk, sharing words of joy, sorrow, and redemption. This was a miracle. Pharaoh sends gifts for Jacob. The news of this extraordinary reunion quickly reached Pharaoh. When he heard that Joseph's brothers had arrived, Pharaoh was pleased. He said to Joseph,
Tell your brothers to return to Canaan. Bring their father and all their families and come to me. I will give them the best of the land. They will eat from the wealth of Egypt. Let them not worry about anything. I will provide for them.
Joseph immediately ordered wagons, food, and gifts to be prepared for their journey. To each of his brothers he gave fine garments, but to Benjamin he gave 5 times more. He sent his father an abundance of richest donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and everything needed for the journey. As he sent them off, he gave them one final instruction.
Do not argue on the way.
He knew that guilt and old wounds could easily resurface, but that time was over. Now they were to return home with joy. Jacob learns the truth. When they reached home, they burst into Jacob's house and cried out,
Father, Joseph is alive. He is the ruler of all Egypt.
The old man stood frozen, his heart filled with disbelief. He heard their words, but he could not accept them.
No, it cannot be.
But when he saw the wealth, the wagons loaded with gifts, and when he heard every detail of the story, his eyes filled with tears, and his spirit was revived.
It is enough,
he exclaimed, arms wide open.
My son Joseph is alive. I will go and see him before I die.
For the first time in years, hope shone in his eyes again. The dream that had been shattered by lies and pain was now becoming a reality once more. Jacob's journey from fear to blessing. Through the dry landscapes of Canaan, the old man Jacob embarked on his final great journey. Once, as a young man, he had run through these lands with hopes and dreams. But now, burdened by years and the weight of time, with a heart full of joy and fear, he traveled toward a land he never thought he would call home. Before crossing the border, before leaving the land of promise, he stopped at Beersheba, a place where his father Isaac and his grandfather Abraham had prayed to God. Jacob knew that before going anywhere, he had to bow before his God. With trembling hands, he offered sacrifices. His prayer was simple but deep.
Lord, is this your way? Is this your will?
That night, in the stillness of the night sky, God spoke to him in a vision.
Jacob, Jacob.
The old man, long familiar with the voice of the Almighty, answered,
Here I am, Lord. I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt. There I will make you a great nation. I will go down with you, and I will surely bring you back. And when your final day comes, Joseph will close your eyes.
At that moment, all his fears melted away. This was not just a journey, this was God's plan. The exodus of Jacob's household. The next morning, Jacob awoke with renewed strength. He gathered his family, his livestock, everything he owned, and set out for Egypt. Pharaoh, in honor of Joseph, had sent wagons to transport the family and children. Jacob, a man who had once fled alone, now traveled surrounded by his descendants, sons, daughters, grandchildren. This was not just a relocation, this was the fulfillment of God's promise. From Beersheba to the borders of Egypt, the caravan moved forward, carrying not just people, but history itself. The most awaited reunion. Father and son. Jacob could not believe he would see the eyes of his beloved son again. When they arrived in Goshen, he sent Judah ahead to inform Joseph. When Joseph heard the news, he could not wait. He immediately ordered his chariot to be prepared and rushed to the place where his father was. With every moment on the road, his heart pounded faster. And then he saw him. There, among the people, under the weight of years, stood his father. Joseph could not hold back. He leaped from his chariot, ran to him, spread his arms and embraced him, tears streaming down his face. Jacob held on to the son he had thought he would never see again. They clung to each other for a long time, as their hearts spoke what their lips could not. And then, with a trembling but satisfied voice, Jacob said,
Now I can die in peace, because I have seen your face and know that you are alive.
But Joseph did not want his father thinking of death.
No, father, this is a new beginning. I will take care of you. You will stay with me in Goshen, in the best land. You will never again suffer poverty or hunger.
Jacob looked upward as if gazing toward heaven and whispered,
Lord, you are faithful.
Pharaoh and the new home. Joseph knew he had to inform Pharaoh of his family's arrival.
My lord, my father and my brothers have arrived from Canaan. They are shepherds and have brought everything they own.
Pharaoh not only welcomed them, but gave them land the best, the most fertile in Egypt.
Live in Goshen,
Pharaoh said,
and if any of your men are skilled, let them care for my livestock as well.
Jacob and his descendants were now safe. Joseph took his first real breath of peace. His family was finally together again. Conclusion: God's faithfulness in every step. This story was not just about a family reunion. It was proof that God's plans are always greater, deeper, and more perfect than human understanding. Jacob never expected to leave Canaan, but God had prepared a place for him in Egypt. The brothers never expected mercy, but they received love. Joseph never expected to embrace his family again, but God restored what he thought was lost forever. And so, in Egypt, a new chapter for the people of Israel began. Jacob and Pharaoh, a meeting between the earthly and the eternal. In the morning, with quiet determination, Joseph entered Pharaoh's palace.
My lord,
he said respectfully,
my father and my brothers have arrived from Canaan. They have brought everything they own, their flocks, their herds, their families, and they are now in the land of Goshen.
Pharaoh, his curious gaze fixed on Joseph, nodded.
Bring some of them before me.
Joseph carefully chose 5 of his brothers and led them into the presence of the most powerful man in Egypt. Pharaoh looked at them. Their clothes were simple. Their faces bore the marks of life in the wilderness. They were nothing like the elegance and luxury of Egypt.
What is your occupation?
Pharaoh asked.
We are shepherds.
They replied humbly.
As were our fathers before us. We have come to stay in your land because there is no pasture for our flocks in Canaan. Please, allow us to dwell in Goshen.
Pharaoh turned to Joseph again.
Your brothers are in your hands. Give them a place in the best part of the land, Goshen. And if any of them are capable men, let them care for my livestock as well.
Joseph bowed with gratitude. But this was only the beginning. The most important meeting had yet to take place. When old age stands before power. With slow but steady steps, the old man Jacob was brought before Pharaoh. Pharaoh, accustomed to seeing strong and proud men seeking something from him, now looked upon a man bent by years, yet with eyes that still sparkled with wisdom. Before Joseph, before his sons, before the entire Egyptian court, Jacob lifted his hands and blessed Pharaoh. In that moment, silence fell over the palace. This was no ordinary gesture of respect. This was something deeper. The old man, who had endured years of suffering and experience, spoke words that reached beyond the throne of Egypt, words of blessing from the Almighty himself. Pharaoh, astonished, looked at him and asked,
How old are you?
Jacob smiled, a smile that carried the weight of an entire life.
The days of my pilgrimage are 130 years,
he said.
Few and full of troubles have been the years of my life. I have not lived as long as my fathers before me. I have lived as a stranger, a traveler.
Pharaoh, a man who had never known poverty or suffering, listened carefully. Once again, Jacob blessed him before leaving. And so, in the heart of Egypt, a man of God, a man who once wrestled with angels, spoke words that would echo through the ages. A new chapter, Joseph's care for his family. With Pharaoh's permission, Joseph settled his father and brothers in the best lands in a region called Ramesses. This was no ordinary refuge. This was divine providence. While Egypt and Canaan suffered famine, while nations fell to their knees begging for grain, the house of Israel lacked nothing. Joseph provided for them. Every day throughout the years of famine, his hand sustained them. This was more than brotherly love. This was God's faithfulness in action, the famine that changed Egypt. But while Jacob's family thrived, Egypt paid a terrible price for the famine. First, the people gave all their money for grain. When their money was gone, they gave their livestock. When they had nothing left to sell, they gave their land. And in the end, they even gave themselves, selling their freedom just to survive.
Buy us, my lord,
they pleaded.
We and our land will become Pharaoh's servants. Just let us live.
And so all of Egypt became Pharaoh's possession. Joseph gave them seed, but made a decree. 1/5 of all their harvests would belong to Pharaoh. Instead of complaining, the people responded with gratitude.
You have saved our lives.
Egypt, a land that had once been free, was now a nation of servants. But among them, only one group remained untouched, the Egyptian priests. Their lands remained untouched, their lives remained secure. It was clear sacred things always have a special place. Jacob's final request. 17 years passed. 17 years Jacob lived in Egypt, and his son Joseph provided for him, just as he once had provided for his son when he was a child. But now Jacob's time was near. Lying in his bed, he could feel life slowly slipping away. He sent a messenger to Joseph.
Come to me, my son.
Joseph came immediately and sat by his father's side. The old man looked at him with love, but also with one final request.
Do not bury me in Egypt. When I die, carry me to the tomb of my fathers in the land that God has promised us."
Joseph, with tears in his eyes, nodded.
"I will do as you say, Father." "Swear it to me."
Jacob whispered. Joseph placed his hand under his father's thigh and swore an oath, and then Jacob rested his head on his pillow. There was no fear in his eyes, no sorrow, only peace. He knew God had been with him every step of the way, and now at last he was drawing near to the promised land.